Hello, everyone. My name is Julie McVeigh, and this is Unordinary Made Ordinary, where we talk about extraordinary experiences of everyday people. And today we're talking with Corey. Welcome, Corey. So glad you're here.
Hi, Julie. Thanks for having me.
So we're going to get right into it because we don't have a whole lot of time. Oh, got to put my little timer on. So I try and stay organized. Can you please share with me, with all of us, just a little bit about yourself, a little background into who you are?
Yeah, I was adopted, and which is a interesting thing. And one of the things in the adoption papers was that my birth mother wanted me to be Catholic. So my family, my mother and dad, they weren't really religious by any means, but my mom was going to do what was on that paper. So I went through the whole catechism, the whole thing, right? Confirmed Catholic. It was an altar boy, all that stuff. And then somewhere in my, I don't know, let's say around 9, 10, after that, I ended up going to a Baptist, like middle school and then high school. And of course, Baptist, then I don't know, they don't really get along too much with Catholics. So there was like conflict there. And it seemed like I was always in trouble in Bible class. And then in the absolute crazy, like every Wednesday chapel at school, just the crazy concepts and topics, I really had a hard time with it. It just wasn't something that just really spoke to me at all. And quite frankly, it still doesn't, even with all these experiences I've had now. So, you fast forward and knowing you were adopted your entire life. It was July 1st in 2012 when I got an email from somebody that said, hey, if you're this person, my name was actually Edward William McKay for 1 month, right? That's my name. He said, if you're this person, then I'm your half brother. So, and that started this, back and forth, which turned out to be true. And of course, that was really exciting, right? But then, within an hour, you find out that your birth mother has been dead for, since 96. So that was, it was neat to be able to find, some answers, but then, it was sad that she was gone. But anyway, that family has been very nice. They've kind of, embraced me, and I've been back there to visit them and all that. And an Italian family for sure, which was, interesting. So my mother's family is Italian, Scavoni from Sicily. And it turns out that my surname would be Lafort with an E, which sounds French, but it's actually Italian, which is also from Sicily. So someday I'll do some work on that and see if those two families actually had any interaction with each other, which would be, fun. But going back there and meeting them from the first time and learning their like family culture and things like that was really interesting. And one of them that I never had, which is strange, even though our family was Italian, was a cannoli, like a dessert. Never had them, but and I really enjoyed it. And that was something that, that kind of stuck out. And we'll get to that later because there's something about that brings all this together. But also in that time, I found out that my birth mother was kind of spiritual. She had tarot cards. In fact, the brother has her set of tarot cards, which, again, Catholic, right? She wanted to be Catholic.
Yeah.
And this Baptist, and you just didn't play with those things. So in my mind, even though I wasn't strictly religious, it was just, this is kind of strange. You don't do this. I remember as a kid watching John Edward on TV and just laughing at people, thinking these people are nuts. You're dead, right?
Yeah.
You're not gonna be talking to anybody. They're just scammers. And so all this was coming up, and this family was like, hey, maybe you should consider talking to a medium. Maybe you'll, be able to talk to your mother. And I remember thinking to myself, no, that's just not going to happen. This doesn't make any sense. So, fast forward about a year. So this is 2013, and my best friend dies. And I don't know, I kind of went off the deep end on that one. I didn't understand. I talked to him the day before. Now he's gone. And I just like, is this real? Is there something else? I think that was the catalyst, right? These two things: finding your birth family, finding that she was gone and you weren't going to be able to talk to her. And
Yeah, I was gonna Yeah, I
right?
was going to ask you, like, what got you interested in these topics? So it
Yeah,
was really that you didn't have any experiences as
I
a
was
as a child.
clueless. Like I
Okay.
said, I really just
Nothing.
oblivious, just
Yeah.
whatever. Didn't make any sense. I'd never die, you know. You just
Okay.
have that as your kid, as you're growing up, you're just not thinking about this stuff.
True.
But
Well,
with
some do, but yeah, I know what you
I,
mean.
I yeah, I guess so. Because even with
Yeah.
grandparents passing away, it wasn't. It was just like, oh, it was sad that they passed away. It wasn't where they
Mm-hmm.
go, what's going on. So
Right, right.
again, these two things kind of just
Mm.
ate at me, and I had to try to figure out, you know, what was going on.
Right,
So
right.
now my friend, not religious at all. In fact,
Oh.
he was preceded in death by his older brother. And I remember about 2 months before he died, I was back there and I asked him, I said, what do you think your brother's doing right now?
Mm-hmm.
Because I guess for me, I guess I've always thought that there was something else, but just didn't put much effort into it. And,
I
you
see.
know,
Yeah.
but I was throwing a question out there. And of course, being him, he said, nothing. He's rotting in his grave. There's nothing going on. He's just
Mm-hmm.
dead.
Yeah.
And we just stopped it. And I think I kind of made a comment about, well, if one of us goes first, we've got to communicate. That was that comment. And he just rolled his eyes. So that conversation was over.
Yeah.
Fast forward a few months and he's gone. And to me, I'm like,
Wow,
well,
that's
yeah, it's
crazy.
just really, really strange.
Man.
And so
Wow.
I started after all the emotions of it, like, what's going on there. I started thinking, well, he's going to communicate because I would. I mean, if you
If you
can, I would
can.
sure try,
Yeah,
right?
me too.
I mean, this just was, and he impacted so many people that, it just made a huge impact.
Mm.
So months went by and nothing.
Well, did
And
you
of course,
try anything
huh?
in particular, like to reach out to him?
I didn't even know how. I mean, I
Yeah.
started reading books, and when I get into something, it's like, it's ridiculous. So I have
Books and books.
my Kindle is it's just
Full.
ridiculous.
Okay.
Reading, but nothing. And of course, it's getting frustrating because it's like, what, how hard is this? Either you're really lazy and you're not trying, or this is not real. It's just you're dead.
Mm.
And so I didn't know at that time. I think there might be a consensus now that some people, when there's traumatic death or traumatic experiences or something happens, there's a resting or a reflection time period for them on the other side, or it just doesn't happen, or they have to build up a certain amount of energy,
Mm-hmm.
or my personality has to calm down, or I can connect to it.
Mm-hmm.
There can be a time period of nothing going on.
Right. I've heard of all of those
Yeah,
possibilities. Yeah.
but that was going to change. And there was a 3-week period of just kind of crazy stuff that happened. And I got to preface this and say that I'm just a normal person, right? And I have experiences, and I've had experiences with my friend, or experiences that make sense to me. And sometimes these things are very hard to articulate to other people why it was such a standout to you. Okay, so I'm going to do the
Mm-hmm.
best I can to make this make sense.
Okay.
And I think some people will probably go, that doesn't, I'm not, that wouldn't make any sense to me, but we'll see. And I think this is
And it's
important.
interesting, and I've heard this before too. It's like it doesn't seem like much, but then for them, it's like that thing where you get tingles, and it's like deep in your soul. You're feeling like, oh, okay, that was totally my
Yeah.
friend or my
Yeah. And that's
loved one.
happened. What I've noticed is that there'll be something that happens, and then there'll be something else that comes in to kind of define who that person was.
Hmm.
And you'll see this here in a second.
Okay.
So went to a Christmas party with one of my clients, and they play a game called Dirty Santa. And Dirty
Okay.
Santa, there's you bring a present, and anybody that wants to participate, they go around the room and they give out numbers, and then you can go up and pick a gift, and you can, if you don't like it, you can steal somebody else's gift, and back
Mm-hmm.
and forth. I don't know what it was about that, but before I even got into that building, I knew I was going to pick the number 2 slot. I just
Hmm.
knew I was picking number 2. And I could hear like a laugh, but it was like somebody's funny in my head thinking, this is ridiculous. You're going to get number 2, which number 2, for people who don't know, is like the worst number you can really pick. Okay.
Yes.
Right.
We just played, we call it white elephant, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right. And I don't know. I just kept, and I mentioned something to somebody about this. I said, yeah, I'm going to pick number 2. That's what's going to happen today. And we'll go from there. So we sit down, we go through, and I picked number 14.
Oh,
Okay. So in my mind, I'm
okay.
thinking, okay, that was ridiculous. I don't know what that
Okay.
was all about. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting next to this lady and named Pam, and she's kind of depressed. And I'm like, well, what's wrong with you? She goes, I always get the worst numbers. I always get she's just having this experience. And I'm like, well, I'll trade you mine because
Oh,
whatever. Can you see what's gonna happen here?
oh
So
dear,
she
that's
just, before
funny.
even thinking, she just grabs it out of my hand and I look at it and it's number 2.
Oh my goodness.
And again, I hear the laughing, right? It's like,
Oh, you do?
yeah, and it's just, and
Interesting.
it's not an audible, it's just like an internal laughing. And
Okay.
it's
Do you
I
think
didn't
it's
know
you
who it was, I didn't
laughing
know what it was.
or somebody else?
Like something just, it's just like it's really funny.
Okay.
Somebody or some entity or something, right? It's just really
Okay.
comical.
Yeah.
And like, okay, that's weird. So I get up, and there's 30 gifts. I'm the second person to get a gift. I don't know what to pick. So I just grab something and walk over to the table and I open it up. And I'm looking at this thing
Uh-huh.
and I just start laughing because it was a flashlight. It was a mag flashlight.
Okay.
Normal people would think, well, what's wrong with that? There's nothing to this,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
But flashlights were a joke between me and my friend.
Oh, really?
I
Okay.
complained. I complained to him. I said, every Christmas, every gift, it's always a flashlight. People are giving me flashlights all the time. I
Yeah.
don't know why these people are giving me flashlights, right?
Okay.
It was just, yeah. And
They
he
need
would
you
laugh.
need a
He would
little light
ask
in your
me.
life. I don't know.
Well, I understand it now, right? I've hit 52. I can't see. I need a flashlight. But he would call me, my birthday and stuff. Would you get a flashlight? It was to be like a big joke. And again, I pull
Funny.
this
Okay.
flashlight and I'm just looking at this thing and I can hear him laughing. That was the laugh. He would always laugh. I just hear this laughing in my
Oh.
head. And then my phone goes off with a text message
Uh-huh.
and it says, oh, our servers are down. And that was the company where he and I worked with. That's where it was. So
Oh.
at that point in time, and this is one of those situations where you'll get something and you'll kind of think, oh, that's kind of strange. It's a
Right.
coincidence. It's something weird.
Right.
Then something else will come in and kind of like validate it.
Follow up. Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's what that was. And I was
Okay.
like,
Cool.
okay. Yeah. And by the way, the lady that gave me that thing, Pam, she was the one that gave the flashlight, which I thought was kind of strange too.
Wow. Gosh. Yeah.
So about a week later, that was on a Friday. So it was about a Tuesday or so. I had got a new book. It was by the mom of Channeling Eric,
Okay.
that Eric character. And you know, that a lot of people are negative against that whole channel and stuff like that. But this was interesting. I had read this book. This was back again in 2013, so this is a while ago now. And
Right.
in that book, he said that he liked to prank people. Okay, and he pranked people with water. He liked using water to prank people. And I remember sitting there laughing and thinking, okay, Vince, my friend said, Vince, meet Eric, Eric, meet Vince, go for it, prank me. Okay. And within 10 minutes, I put the book down and I walked into my office and there was water all over the floor in my office.
What?
And I'm like,
Wow. That's
yeah, I'm like, okay, is
huh.
it okay? Okay, how? So being a left mind, left brain person, I'm like, all right, where'd the water come from? Well, I figured it out. But having lived there for 15 years, this has never happened. And 10 minutes after this, right? And of course, again, I hear that laughing in my head.
So, okay, so let me ask you a question. Do you think that the water thing happened and then your friend Vince thinks, oh, I'm going to put this thought into his head and I'm going to use this
I
to
I
tell him
do
I'm
think that's
around?
how this works. I do think there's some sort of timing issue in there, but he would also had to have got me to buy the book and then get the book and then read it at the right time. Because remember, I just read it. I was just
Well,
reading it after.
maybe, but
Yeah.
but
There's all this timing
I
has
don't
to
know.
come at the same time, right?
I don't know how that works. It's
All
so
right. So, but
interesting.
again, I tell this to people and I say, most people are going to go, I got a flashlight, big deal. Got some
Right.
water on the floor, big deal. Okay.
Sure.
Well, my father's a pilot. And I've got clients all over the place. And we had gone on a trip. And I remember this was a few weeks prior to this Friday at the party and this water thing. And I just remember thinking, I wonder if Vince is he around? Does he know we're doing this? He always said he hated single engine airplanes. And here we are on a single engine airplane, he's sitting on the wing. How does this work? Right. And I just remember thinking about this. And of course, I don't get any response. I don't get anything. But that Thursday, so again, we did a Friday, we did a Tuesday with the water. Now we're on a Thursday.
Okay.
I asked my dad, I said, can you fly me up to a client? It'd be a lot faster. And we get in the plane, we take off, we go up there, and we're over the runway, and we should have checked before we left. That's what you're supposed to do. But we looked down on the runway and there was big X's on the runway. And if you see an X on the runway, it means the runway's closed. You can't land there.
Oh no.
They're doing maintenance on it or something's happening.
Okay.
And there it is again. And I hear that laughing in my head. And I hear this, just you guys are just a bunch of dumbasses. So we had to fly back home because why you can't land. So we come home and I'm just thinking, man, that's ridiculous. So I think it was a Monday after that, we're gonna try it again. And I said, this time, I came home for lunch. I said, this time during lunch, I'm gonna look, make sure the airport's open for whatever that thing was, make sure it was clear. And I get in there, no X's, call the airport, they're fine, everybody's great. I can hear that laughing in my head again. And I'm thinking, man, are you paying attention? Are you actually there? Is this something that's really happening? And no response, no nothing, just that image. And I get done with lunch, I'm backing out of the driveway, and I'm just stopped at the end of the driveway. And I'm just looking, and where my car was parked was a huge X on the ground.
What?
Yes. And I of course I put it in park and I get out and I'm like, how does this work exactly? I mean, how I've only been here for 30 minutes. I went and did that. I hear this information and now I'm looking at an X in my driveway.
Okay. How'd the X get there?
We had been doing some construction on the house, and on the back side of the house, they had thrown some old shelving units, and somehow the fake wood on that had come off and blown around the side of the house.
Oh,
right, and under the car to make a perfect X.
gotcha.
And it was a big one. I mean, the shelves were 12 inches. So
that's so
weird.
Like oh, it's so strange.
So, okay, that's on a Monday, and I'm like, all right. There were some other things that were kind of strange that happened, but I just couldn't. I'm fighting all this stuff. I'm thinking, no, this is just something. These are the coincidences, right? These are just little things that kind of just don't quite add up. But I'm just not quite getting it. Well, that Sunday, my wife was down in Dallas, and she came back from Dallas. And earlier in the day, when I was driving home from work, I got this text message from my half brother, who said that, hey, I've been learning how to play pool. And I'd really like the other brother to come to the pool and play a game with me. They've been having some issues between each other. I'm not really sure 100% what it was, but they weren't really talking that much. And I just had this overwhelming urge to tell them that Martha, which was my birth mother, she'd really want that to happen.
Okay, which is their mom.
That's their mom.
These are your two half brothers.
Yeah. But I'm thinking, that's crazy. You don't just say that to people. You've only been around a year and a half. You just telling them now that this is, but man, it was just bugging me. It was like something was really bugging me as I was driving home about this. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm just going to say it. So I just texted back and said, yeah, I think Martha would really like to see that. Make that happen. And I hear this thank you. And I get that like shot down your spine, kind of like, I don't know, where like you just get kind of like goosebumps, And I'm like, well, that's kind of strange. I haven't really had that experience before. But about an hour later, I was reading a book on the bed and nothing, nobody had said anything. And I'm thinking, oh man, these guys think I'm nuts. So they're just backing off. But about an hour later, I get a text from that second brother that said, "I'll do it."
Mm.
And again, I hear thank you, and I just feel like that shot down your back, where it's just,
Hmm.
you get the goosebumps down your back, right? And it just feels really strange. And I'm like, all right, well, whatever. So again, my wife was down in Dallas, and she was driving home that night. And she got home about 6. We had dinner, and then we were talking a little bit, and then she just gets this weird look on her face, and she goes, "Oh, oh, I got you something. Hold on." She runs out of the car, and she comes back, and she pulls out a cannoli. And I'm like, "How do you?" And I hadn't said anything to her, but I said, now I put two and two together with cannolis with my birth mother side of the family. Like,
Right.
thank you, literally, thank you. Here's your cannoli. Here's your gift
Right.
for doing
Right.
this. And I think that night, that was a Sunday night, and I was just sitting there going, okay, we had the party. That was crazy. You know, maybe I'm making this up. Then they had the water thing. Well, everybody can have water on the floor, although it's never really happened, especially after, I literally out loud called them on it.
Yep.
And then we
Yeah.
had this whole thing with the airplane, and there's
Yeah.
an X in my driveway,
Yeah.
which is bizarre, right?
It's one thing
There's a
after
few other things
another
that were just kind of weird. And then now I just had this whole experience
with the cannoli.
with a cannoli.
She's thanking you, your
And
mom.
I'm like,
That's just,
okay. And I remember being in bed thinking, I said out loud, I said, is this coincidence? What the hell is this all about? This is interesting. I asked for this. Okay. I guess if this is what I think this is. Um, and of course, no response, right? Well, I get up the next morning, which is a
uh,
Monday, right?
uh,
And my normal routine is get up really early. I go down to the office, fire up the computer. At that time, I was using Google Play Music, and I start streaming my music.
mhm.
And the first song on the playlist is named "There Are No Coincidences." And the second
Okay.
song was like, "I'm in Paradise." The third song was "I'm So Sorry." The fourth song, I mean, it just kind of goes on and on and on,
Wow.
you know?
Gee.
So at that point, I pretty much said, okay, something's going on here. What, how am I going to do this? Well, what about mediumship?
Yeah. You're like, let's
Maybe
get
it's
this
time.
connection
Maybe it's
going.
time. I had been reading the books on it, reading all the stuff. I think
Hmm.
by that time I probably read 50 books. I was getting kind of familiar with the pattern of how these things work.
Okay.
My interest, even though, being confirmed Catholic, that's, supposed to do this stuff and all that kind of things.
Yeah.
Fine, whatever. So I started doing some research, and I found this medium named Chris Stiller. He's on YouTube.
Okay.
Done anything really recently, but he's still out there and active. And he was reasonably priced. I'm not I'm not going to give people a ton of money for this. I especially when it's, you're not even sure you should be doing it. But I waited the 6 months or whatever it was, and I had this conversation. And I'll say since then I've had probably 5 or 6 readings. And if would I recommend it to people? I don't know. Yes, probably. Maybe they're not what you really think sometimes, and results can definitely vary. And you don't want to get
Right.
people depressed, right? But I have never had a medium hit anything right out of the box.
And
They
you
always
did.
seem to come up with these weird things for a while, and then eventually I'll say, just focus on this name or focus on this, and then they
Speaking
start
of focus, you're out of focus for some reason. Just want to let you know. I don't know
starting
if
to
you hit a button
get
or
get blurry.
you got a little blurry, but I'm not sure why. I want you to continue and not worry about it though.
Okay. So I talked to Chris Stiller, and it was really interesting, and we got into. He said, "What's your friend's name?" I said, "Vince." And he goes, "Well, I got this. It's a guy, obviously, and he's just laughing his ass off."
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
and
Well,
that was his
he's
personality. His
he's just having
personality was,
fun.
yeah, his personality was that, right? And the second thing that came up was how he died, which was pretty accurate. He didn't get it 100%, but he got the blunt trauma. He got certain things about it that were dead
Oh,
on.
okay.
And then the question came, he's really concerned that people think it was a suicide, and it wasn't a suicide and all that stuff. And
Oh,
absolutely, his father and I were discussing that and things like that.
wow.
Anyway, so we kind of answering those questions,
Hmm.
talking about the personality. When you listen to the tape, it's his personality. It's not any of my other friends' personality. It's not my personality. And his was complex. Let me tell you, definitely complex. Relationships, problems, things like that. It was in there, things like that. But the most interesting to me was I always wondered what happened to his money, what he did with his money. 2 weeks before he passed away, we did some business together, and I gave him $2,000, and it was gone. It disappeared. And what kind of came out of it was, Coy way, he said, "Look, I'm not going to tell you all my dark details, right? I'm not going to tell you all the dark side of this, but he goes, I had a recreational drug problem, and I had no idea.
Wow.
I had no idea this was going on.
Wow.
So he really hit it well. And I had gone back after the thing was over and all that. I went back to a mutual friend, and I asked her. I said, "Was this going on?" Because they had dated on and off. And she started crying. She said, "Yeah." She goes, "Nobody knew that." She goes, "How do you know that?" And I said, "Well,
Oh my goodness.
I had this conversation, and
Okay.
this was validated." So that for me helped. Again, I
Yeah.
still am left brain. I still don't know, if this is real or not, right? But it definitely helped, because I just can't grasp my mind around how these people know this stuff.
Yeah.
Another one that I've talked to is her name's Kat. I don't know her last name. She goes by Kat B, and I think
Oh,
she's in the
yeah.
group.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's part of the Helping Parents Heal group.
Oh,
She's
okay.
yeah,
Cool.
and she came right out of the bat and very strong. Again, him laughing, having a great old time. A little flirty, which is kind of funny because that's how he was, right? And she was able to pull out, information about my birth mother, and things like that. So that was great. But one of the really interesting things is she pulled out a name out of the hat. She says, "Who's Allison?" She goes, "There's an Allison, and he wants to talk to Allison and apologize to Allison and say he's been around Allison, and this is the things that she's doing." Well, Allison was that. She was that friend, that girl I was talking about earlier. And I actually sent her that whole snippet from the reading and sent it to her. And again, she got really emotional because it was dead on.
Yeah. Wow.
And, that was really kind of the first time that someone's pulled a name out of the hat like that. That's just been 100%.
So
And I guess I
cool.
should preface it and say that, I'm not, I do use Facebook. I use it for groups, but I don't have any friends on it. They're not connected. There's no way to connect the people, and for people to research or, know who we are. I'm here in Oklahoma and they're far away,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
and both mediums actually were able to pinpoint the movement back and forth between here and California and things like that, which was kind of interesting. Kat actually pinpointed where I was born, which was kind of there. Yeah, that was wild. So, where do we go from here? Well,
Yeah.
one of the things that we found was, well, what about lucid dreaming? What about OBEs? Would
Is
I
that from
actually
the
be
reading
able to?
that you
Yeah,
started? Okay.
yeah. I mean, is this real? I mean, these people are telling me that these things are happening, and I'm not believing in mediumship, or I'm not believing in coincidences, right? But I'm being dragged, kicked and screaming through these experiences. And then I start to wonder, I said, well, if this seems to have some validity to it, what about the OBE? Am I able to actually do this?
Yeah.
Right.
So
Well,
you're
it turns
thinking
out,
maybe I can go out of body and meet my friend. Is that what you're thinking?
didn't even have that thought.
Oh, you didn't yet. Okay.
I was just like, if we're not just this, if we're not just our body, right? And I can prove that I can get out of body and see my body, that's going to put a lot of enforcement on what's going on here, right? It's going to really enforce this.
Yeah.
Now I will cut to the chase and say I have not been out of body to see myself. I think I have been out of body. I've definitely had experiences, some really fun, crazy, magical experiences, right? But I haven't quite got to the point of doing what my objective is. And I think we'll probably get there because others have said they can do it. And being as how I've been able to have all these other experiences, I'm sure I can, but it's a work in progress, definitely. So it really moved from learning about NDEs and learning about the afterlife and learning about that stuff to how do you do OBEs? How do you lucid dream? What are the techniques? Does
Yeah.
this work?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, it took a while. It really did. It took a couple years.
When did
And
you first start lucid dreaming? Was that the first thing you started before out of
well,
body?
so he passed away in 13. A lot of this stuff and the mediumships has happened, by 2015. So somewhere around 16, I started to read about OBEs.
Okay.
Kind of interesting that I just don't seem to come across certain things, or it doesn't trigger where I should be. I should have already known about these things. It just seemed like I ignore it for a while, and then it pops up and I get interested and I just dive in. So I had I guess you would say the first big OBE experience, and I'm going to differentiate OBEs from lucid dreams, saying that when I'm in an OBE, I cannot manipulate the environment. I cannot change it, can't do anything to it. I'm just there. I'm participating in this reality, and then I'm back, if you will. Okay.
Did you experience lucid dreams before OBE?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, because I've enjoyed, like I guess maybe it's cliche now, but taking all the leaves off a tree, putting all the leaves back on the tree, generally freaking other people out in the dreamscape, when this is
Gotcha.
happening, just, fun stuff like that. But the OBEs, I think they're more interesting when you can't change the environment. I guess it feels like it's maybe a little bit more real. Like
Hmm.
this is, actually happening versus, you being able to change the environment to whatever you want. But the first step was for me learning how to remember my dreams.
Yeah.
That was the first step,
Right. Did you do a
and
dream
then
journal to help?
no, I really am not that. I
Oh.
can remember them for the most part, and
Oh,
I
good.
play them over my head almost all day, whatever's
Oh,
been going on. And
okay.
I'm okay to forget. I'm okay to forget lucid dreams. I don't think I need to grab the ones that the OBEs are the ones you just don't forget. I think that might be a differentiator too. You really can't forget those. So, but read a bunch of books. I think William Berman's book, it was probably the most helpful. And the technique that worked for me was looking at your hand. It says you look at your hand during
Hmm.
the day, maybe every 10 minutes or so, look away, look back at it. If it stays as a hand, then you're in this reality. If it changes its shape the second time you look at it, or something is weird about it, then you're dreaming and you can wake up in your dream.
Right. So reality checks, you do those several times a day?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. At that time I did. At that time I did.
Right.
And that worked. You look at your hand and it looks like a hand. You look at it away, look at it again, and you got like a claw. Okay.
Right. It's
Or your
the,
hands
I
deformed.
believe the concept is when we dream, we often take, excuse me, what we do during the day will often end up in our dream life. So if you're looking at your hands and doing reality checks, like try and put your finger through your hand, or you look at it, is this a real hand? Am I dreaming? Do that several times a day. Eventually you'll find yourself doing that in your dream. And then that will be your trigger to wake up.
Triggers so you wake up. So, and then at that point when you wake up, then you're just, can I put 3 moons up in the sky? Can I mow the lawn without actually touching it? Can I make, just doing weird stuff, right?
Creative. You're
Yeah,
creative.
creative stuff. But I will say this, when you're in that experience, even though you can test the lucid dream by thinking about what you did today and what you're going to do tomorrow. And it's something I will do. Like, okay, I worked on this system, or I worked with this client today. Tomorrow I'm supposed to do that. That tells me that my conscious, I pulled it into this dream. But even saying that, it's still not full. I don't know that it's always fully there, because you're not, it seems like for me, I'll be focused on a particular task, really focused on a task. And
Mhm.
this is a frustrating thing for me. I'll explain it a little bit. So I went through that for a while. And one of the things that Bowman said is that you can do is when you're in that state, you can do a 360 or turn around a 180, right? A turn around. And by the time you turn around, the scene will have changed, and that will you can pull yourself into an OBE or some other, reality. And that seemed to work for me.
Mm.
When I would turn around, the scene would change, and things wouldn't actually, I couldn't change the environment. I couldn't do things,
Okay,
but they
so you're in
lasted
a
for,
lucid dream,
you know,
and where you can manipulate your environment, you do a 180 or a 360, I guess, either one.
yeah, you can just,
And the environment is different, the scenery is different,
yeah,
and you can walk into a more solid, stable environment that you can't really
yeah.
change.
Problem is, it only lasts for seconds,
Mm.
and then it would collapse. So it took some time to start to realize that there was a kind of like maybe I don't want to say a dream state, but maybe a meditation state as you're falling asleep, where I don't want to say a vibration, because that's what people say. They say it was a vibration, or it was a loud noise, it was something. It's, for me, I call it like an internal humming, or internal feeling, almost like that feeling of your body getting goosebumps, but it's super relaxed, and I
Mhm,
could sense it. And
mhm,
when I started to realize that that was happening,
mhm.
I would try to envision myself pushing myself out of this reality. I have no idea what reality I'm talking about, but I'm just like pushing, thinking I'm gonna go somewhere else. I'm gonna move somewhere else.
Mhm.
And what would happen is I would end up in a black void, it just pitch black, dark void. And at that point in time, I started to, it was almost like a familiarity. It was like, this is all I know what's going on now. Now I just gotta wait, and then I'm gonna appear in a scene, or I'm gonna appear
Mhm.
in a place.
Mhm.
And I'd be humming to myself, or playing the elevator music in my head or something as I'm waiting. It's just kind of strange when you think about it, because I mean, up to this point, this really hasn't happened that many times. But when I'm in that environment, man, it seems like I've done this so much. I'm just, I'm been there, done that.
Huh.
In fact, so much so that there's actually a female voice that comes on sometimes, tells me to be patient. This takes time. I've got to set this up, or something's got to be set up to make this work, which
Maybe a
is,
guide
yeah, or something like that.
saying,
It's always a female voice.
okay.
So, and then what will happen is a scene will appear, and then we'll be in that scene, and those scenes will last for a while. So one of the first ones was, we went to the black void. It was very dark. I was waiting. I remember humming just some elevator music or something, like I'm waiting for this thing. And then next thing I can see, I'm seeing through goggles,
Mhm.
and I'm looking around, and all I see is like video games.
Mm.
This is a theme for me,
Mhm.
video games. A lot of this type starts off with some sort of amusement park or a video game or something like that, which is highly annoying to me because I'm not really a video game person.
Hmm.
And I remember thinking to myself, why is it always video games? This doesn't make any sense to me. I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do a 180. When
Mhm.
I do this, the scene's gonna change. So I did that in this first one. I did a 180, and I can only describe this environment as, this sounds so cheesy, but like an adult version of a Chuck E. Cheese, or like what are those game places, Dave and something or
Dave
something,
and Buster's, yeah.
Dave and Buster's or something like that,
Mhm.
where everybody in there was like 25 years old.
Yeah.
And I remember looking over, and they were selling cookies and stuff, and I'm like, oh, you can have cookies here. I don't know why that was entertaining. And then, like, it just took me over, and ever since then it's been like, wait a minute, I can go find my friend.
Mhm.
That's what I got to do. And this is the frustrating part for me, is because I'll be honest, I have not found my friend.
Hmm.
Okay. I've had experiences that I think with him in dream states and stuff like that, but not in a conscious kind of reality, or not like this. But
Hmm.
my personality takes over, and it's so focused on seeing my friend. I am just a complete jerk to everybody in that environment, and it's something that,
She's like, out of my way. I'm finding my friend. Is that what
yes,
it is?
just
Oh.
very, very focused, very straight. So anyway, I said, hey, I went up to the first person. I said, I need to find out where the people that ride motorcycles are, because that's where my friend's going to be. He rides motorcycles. I'm sure he's here riding motorcycles. We're going to find him. We're going to do this.
Uh-huh.
And this was like a 30-minute adventure running through
Wow.
this environment, you know,
It's a long one.
and me just rattling on to this guide, this person that was with me, trying to help me find this, which had no face. I could not see a face on this person, which is kind of strange, kind of
Yeah.
blurry. Other people had faces, and they were young and stuff
Huh.
like that. This one,
I
didn't.
wonder if this was your guide too. I don't know. I
I
don't know
don't
how it
know. I don't
works.
remember really talking. Somehow I remember as a guy, but don't remember him talking to me at all. Very strange transportation, almost like a hoverboard thing that we kind of flew down the street.
Wow.
The streets, the environment was a little bit dingy. It was not what you would think of as a heaven-like pristine place.
Right.
A little bit of a rough neighborhood, if you will.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But very interesting, like a huge rubber ducky, you know, or like a huge beach ball, or a huge, you know, just really strange things. And the best way I could describe it, if people want to go out and see it, is to rent the movie The Lovely Bones.
Hmm.
Has Mark Wahlberg in it.
Okay.
It's a story about a girl that gets murdered and she goes into the afterlife. She's trying to communicate. Well,
Interesting.
whoever did
Okay.
that movie, the cinematography in that movie
They got it, huh?
is my experiences. That is
Wow.
what that looks like. Crazy.
Cool.
So, and I came across that movie, for people who are thinking I came across that movie after these things have happened. So I don't think I was influenced by it at all. But the interesting thing is, for this one, for me, was, you know, being able to tie in some of the visuals that have repeated, you know, over time, like train tracks, which are always narrow gauge, which is strange for me, and all that stuff. The type of mobility that people use, type of cars or type of devices, and the weird type of airplanes, and the way things kind of hover and stuff like that. It's there. But the interesting thing on this one was, towards the end of this environment, or end of this reality, was my guide was on the floor and he couldn't move any farther. And I remember I looking out, because we got to the place where the motorcycles were, and I was so upset because they were dirt bikes, they weren't road bikes. And of course, being this personality, this focused personality, was just so annoyed. I didn't say dirt bikes, I said road bikes. And I
Oh
remember
no.
I remember this individual being on the ground, like in pain, like couldn't go any further,
Huh.
couldn't physically move any further. And I remember saying to myself, I'll just do it myself. And of course, immediately
Wow.
I wake up in bed, just
Okay.
completely embarrassed and apologizing to whoever was trying to help me, you know. And
Huh.
right.
Yeah.
So, you know, that was one, and that experience lasted for a good 30 minutes. And I
Wow.
know that because of the clock, you know, when I went to sleep and versus when I woke up. And
Okay.
I don't know, I guess in that environment, you don't really notice time as well, although, you know, things were going in a sequence. So it wasn't like it was just all over the place or all at once, as some people would say.
Right. Right.
Right. So, but, you know, it's
Wow.
an issue for me as far as the kind of that rudeness of me being so focused in there. I've really tried to work
Your
on that.
personality, it sounds like it changes a little bit
Just,
when
yeah, it's just
you
highly focused
also
on,
in
you know,
lucid dreams, or just the OBEs.
well, the lucid dreams, I'm just kind of messing around. So I
Just
would say these are just the OBEs. The OBEs are always focused on finding my friend.
yeah.
If that takes over, man, just get out of the way, because it's just, here's the direction we're heading. And I'll give you another example. Again, you get to that heavy meditation state. I can feel the I don't say vibration. I guess that's what people say, but the vibration. I know I can push myself out. It's dark. It goes dark, and as the scene's unfolding, I am gliding, not touching the stairs, gliding down these stairs, and there's a courtyard down below. It's got Spanish tile, and as I'm coming down, I can see my white tennis shoes, and I'm thinking, that's ridiculous. I don't wear white tennis shoes, but that's what I had on. And somebody yells out, "Oh, it's a being of light." And I'm thinking, where? Where?
Right.
And the scene that I'm pulling into, again, the cinematography of that movie, The Lovely Bones, is just beautiful. And I'm slowly coming down, and I'm touching the ground. And these characters, these entities, this environment is a lot like either a cross between Alice in Wonderland and The Wizard of Oz. I can only describe it as this. I had a conversation with a pot, like a black kettle. And
Okay.
I'm telling you, this kettle was absolutely so excited to see me. It was like a dog that you had, like a dog that was just hadn't seen his owner in so long, and just bouncing around and running around and bouncing up and down, and just, and these characters and these entities, everything from imagine, you know, what you can imagine,
Yeah.
to actual people and stuff like that, were just
Wow.
coming towards me. And what's my personality? Focused, get out of the way. We're heading down this road. We got to find, you know, my friend, we got to find this or find whatever it was. And actually, in this one, what got me was there was a woman sitting there and she looked a little sketchy. And I was like, oh, I'll deal with you in a little bit here. And what caught my eye was I looked up, and nothing, there is no sun in these environments. There's nothing that you could pinpoint as a place of light. Everything seems to have its own light or be emitting light or something. But when you looked up, it was just stars and nebulas with the colors you couldn't believe. And I remember all these characters coming around and bouncing them down and trying to communicate to me. And I just said to myself, actually everybody else, I said, you know what, before I do this, I want to go there. And I pointed to a nebula, and I woke up in bed here, once again apologizing.
Oh, so interesting. You've had some
Completely
really far out experiences, OBE
I think they are. And
experiences.
I think for me, really what it's done is it's solidified that what people are saying on the internet, you know, when people talk about these stories and they talk about these experiences, a lot of times you're just going, no, this is crazy. This doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But then you start to have that same experience.
Yeah.
Right. Or
you're like, oh, this is what they're talking about. Okay.
Yes, they actually did this.
Yeah, I know. I know.
So
what
where
you're
are we
saying.
today we're to the point where I can be in bed, I can have these experiences, and I can somewhat lift myself out of that experience, and I can see my room in the astral, right? It changes a little bit. Doors are there, windows are there, but maybe the curtains are different, or maybe the bed's a little different. And you can literally just pull your head up and down, and you can see there's like a line there, like a water line, where one's here, you're in your bed. This one, you're looking at the astral bed.
And you haven't seen your body.
No.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. So it's
hand,
empty.
I can see a hand, but that's not what I'm trying to do. So I'm getting there, you know, we're working at it. It seems like it's something that has to be, it needs to, you need help doing it. In other words, somebody is on the other side trying to help you experience this, or trying to help you get out in this environment. So because I was convinced, there was a week there I was convinced that I could just do this on my own.
Right.
And I think I might have told you this before, but it was
like, I got it.
It was every night.
You get that feeling. I get it. You're like, oh, I get it. And then
and then I told the group, I said, you know, I got this figured out. I can do this at will. And it didn't happen again for 6 months.
Right? Man. Well, okay, you know what? We are already over time, if you can believe it. But before we have to sign off, I just want to make sure there's, you know, if there's anything else that you're thinking, oh, I want to share this one other thing, or just anything on your heart that you think that you'd want to share with everyone.
I talked about, you know, I think for people that want to see some of the cinematography or what people are visualizing, if they're not getting themselves, that movie, The Lovely Bones, the cinematography in this is great. The movie, you know, it's kind of a hard movie to watch because of the plot, but if you just get to the cinematography, you can probably look it up on YouTube and see it, right?
Yeah.
The other one I want to talk about was Jeff Mira's podcast, number 190, and it's got Lamar Dixon, and he describes an NDE that he had, and I really resonate with him. I mean, if you listen to that, I've had all those experiences, and including the one that where he fixes in on voices, you know, where people are talking, and you can kind of go there. That's another thing that happens in these OBEs, which is a catalyst to get to a place or something like that. I can't explain it. That's just crazy. But again, it's happened to me. So when I listen to this stuff, I've got to say, hey, you know, this must be real. So if people are interested in that one, it's Jeff Mira's podcast. It's number 190, and I think that's that was a very interesting one. He's got a lot of them, but
that was an interesting one.
Yeah.
Now I want to go and listen to it again because I resonated too with some of the things that you shared. It's like, oh yeah.
So, you know, and the only other thing would just say that, you know, people, when you when you think of something as a coincidence, that's the special part right there, right? You gotta say, yes, that was it. Thank you for sending that. Thank you for whatever that
Yes.
was. And try to see if you can recognize more. Cause I think they come all the time. And we just, I know me
We're too
personally, I get
busy
into
and
work and I'm too busy and
yep.
I don't pay attention. But when you recognize it, just man, that's the best right there, right? And they're
Mm-hmm.
not super crazy. Like I was describing some of the things that happened to me, they're not crazy stuff. They made a lot of sense to me. I put it in a pattern and it helped
Yep.
get me to this point. But I'm sure everybody has their story. They just need to listen to it.
Mm. Yes. Very good advice. Thank you. All right. I guess we have to sign off. This was really fun. I got to hear,
Thank you.
we've talked before, but yes, I did get to hear some new, very interesting things. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Corey, for being here and spending time with all of us. And thank you to everyone for watching. This has been Julie McVeigh with Unordinary Made Ordinary. And I hope you'll join us next time for another fascinating interview. And if you enjoyed this interview, please give it a thumbs up, hit the like button. And if you like this type of content, then subscribe and hit the bell icon if you're on YouTube, because then you'll get alerted to future videos. So I hope you're having a fantastic day or evening, wherever you are on the planet or off the planet. And we will see you next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye.